Phase 1 of Phase 0, Season 4, Episode 21. It is our May 22nd, 2024 edition, and we're starting with movie updates. Deadpool and Wolverine tickets went on sale. A new teaser dropped on Monday. It didn't have a ton of new footage in it. Really only the ending with a little dirty joke there, classic Deadpool and Wolverine. But they did sneak a QR code in there. We'll get to that in a second. It broke the Fandango ticket sales record for 2024. It was the most first-day pre-sales for any movie this year. Nobody's surprised, right?
No.
It's just in my opinion, I don't think there's any doubt this is going to be the biggest movie of the year. But I do think this really puts in perspective what a juggernaut the MCU was in years prior, because it used to just be every movie was breaking every record rather than just the year's record. It puts in perspective how incredible it was that there are so many billion-dollar movies, not just Marvel, but otherwise. Like, people were cranking out billion-dollar movies, and we were like, oh, every blockbuster makes $1 billion. This year is really starting to put in perspective that's a pretty impressive accomplishment that movie studios and the MCU specifically had been pulling off, seemingly month after month back from like 2016 to 2019.
I also think it's a thing of like, this record is just pre-sale tickets. And like a lot of movies, as Film Twitter has debated ad nauseum, a lot of movies that are coming out lately don't necessarily require you to order your tickets 2 months in advance. So I think it makes sense that this is easily breaking the record. I could see other movies in the later part of this year possibly getting close to it. But like, especially when it's 2 months out, it's crazy to me that tickets are on sale this early. But I'm like glad that they are, because now anyone who watches a TV spot or hears anything about the movie can immediately go get tickets. And like, that's a great idea.
Did y'all buy tickets yet?
No, because I'm going to be in San Diego, hopefully.
Right. I bought tickets for San Diego. If y'all are in San Diego, see you at the IMAX.
Cool.
Aaron, did you buy tickets yet?
No, because we have to talk about it on camera. Where are you going to see it so we can go see it together?
We'll see. Here's the thing. My theater was filling up. That's why I bought them.
Wow.
But I'll be honest, I bought 2 sets of 2. So just in case anybody in the Phase Zero or the comic book crew needed tickets, I had 2 spares because I knew me and Richard were probably going to go. And then I had 2 extras. Also, the IMAX seats were a little close, so I don't want to give myself too much credit as like the nice guy. I was also like, all right, there's a screening 15 minutes later. If these seats are too close to the IMAX screen and nobody else wants the other 2 tickets, maybe me and Richard just pop into the 9:30 screening instead and sit a little more comfortably from the screen. Anyway, a new synopsis was released for Deadpool and Wolverine. Quote, Marvel Studios presents their most significant mistake to date, Deadpool and Wolverine. A listless Wade Wilson toils away in civilian life, his days as the morally flexible mercenary, Deadpool behind him. When his homeworld faces an existential threat, Wade must reluctantly suit up again with an even more reluctantist. He must convince a reluctant Wolverine to F word. Synopsises are so effing stupid. So Marvel Studios is really letting you know this is an R-rated movie right out of the gate. Remember when people were like, are they going to make Deadpool R-rated? Now they're dropping F-bombs in the synopsis.
Yeah, I mean, also is a signifier of that, guess what? Atlanta really changed the game, because we didn't used to get silly synopsises like this before that TV show, really, where the synopsis has nothing to do with the actual plot of the movie, other than the fact that, hey, Deadpool and Wolverine together, you know nothing about the rest of the movie. It is a easy way to sidestep. Hey, what is the movie actually about? We've never heard the words Cassandra Nova. We've never heard the words The Void. The words TVA aren't in here. Like, there is some other shenanigans being hidden by all this merriment and QR codes.
Yeah.
I woke up on Monday and I was so worried that the teaser we were going to get for tickets being on sale was going to spoil something. Like, we were going to get some sort of cameo, some sort of something that would have been better to see in theaters. I'm so glad we didn't do that. And yeah, to Aaron's point, I'm glad the synopsis tells us like next to nothing. The old synopsis they had was literally a sentence long. So I'm glad that this is a little bit longer, but I love that we still know absolutely nothing.
This marketing campaign makes it seem so unnecessary that it was revealed that Elektra's allegedly in the movie, because obviously there's a lot of people in this movie, tons of people we haven't seen yet, but that felt like a thing like, oh, they're about to go film outside, we're going to get set photos of her, this is why it's coming out. There's not been a word about that since.
Nope.
And there's other people in this movie that there's not a word, even that much of a word about, that they've kept a secret. So part of me is like, did they just drop that one out there? Did that one get out there? Was this like a marketing ploy through the media to let people know that people are coming back for this movie, to get the fans excited? Or did that just kind of somehow slip through some cracks? THR got it, ran it, or was it Deadline? I don't know, one of them. And I don't know, but I do kind of wish that we didn't know that.
But you get an excuse to talk about Jennifer Garner
I
on this
know.
show like a million times. So I
True.
think you win regardless. But yeah, I wish we knew absolutely nothing. But even then, I gaslight myself as to whether or not she's even in this movie. Because as you said, we've seen no footage. We
True.
have no set photos. So it's like even the surprise of how and if she's actually in the movie still works for me, even though we know those reports.
Well, I mean, it's true. I mean, I know of an actor who filmed for Cap 4, has been entirely cut out of the movie with the reshoot. So those things can happen, and Deadpool is currently reshooting right now. So who knows? But one last thing, that QR code Aaron referenced, there was a QR code between Wolverine's legs in one of the new teasers on Ryan Reynolds' pages. Ryan Reynolds released a disclaimer for the movie, and instead of talk about it, you could just listen to this sweet, Ryan Reynolds Canadian voice here.
We're very excited to be joining you July 26th. Many of you are very excited, but we should set the table correctly. This film is as paper thin as a sequel to Battlefield Earth. We're mostly going to beat each other senseless, make enemies with Disney, tell a few dick jokes, make a few jokes at my expense, make a lot of jokes at Hugh's expense, and completely sidestep Marvel's mandated after-credit sequence, which, if you haven't figured it out yet, is always just a commercial for another movie, which will invariably end with a commercial for another movie. So sit back, relax, let us lower your IQ and raise your heart rate while we travel to a vapid dreamland, a place where grown men and grown women walk around in tights and act like it's not a giant cultural cry for help. This is cinema.
I'm all for it. I'm all for the little trolling of Marvel, trolling of film Twitter, all that stuff. It's great. I think the marketing for this movie is just, it's been fantastic.
It is really clever. I do give that disclaimer a lot of credit. And the Battlefield Earth reference and just some of the other stuff is very funny. Yeah, are we looking up the news that is being dropped in the comments?
Wait, what happened? What happened?
Yeah, I'm on it. Go, Jenna.
Yeah, Aaron
Go.
research. Let's just keep yapping about the disclaimer.
Go. Talk.
Jenna, I think you got the next one here.
Yes, I do. But yeah, so while we researched possibly breaking news in the middle of the show, it would be so nice to have it be breaking during and not a post-credit scene. The X-Men movie has a writer. We talked about this on our bonus episode a couple weeks ago. We kind of talked about the short list and what we wanted to see. Aaron, what's up?
It's real.
It is.
We could throw that into our TV portion of the show.
Yeah.
Give me a breaking Richard / whoever, whatever we're throwing in.
Yeah, we will
later.
sort that into our TV portion of the show. If you have no idea what we're talking about, stay tuned, and we will all discover it together. But yeah, so the X-Men reboot has a writer. It's Michael Leslie, who wrote The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which was the Hunger Games prequel, and is also writing Now You See Me 3. I personally was going to be happy with either of the names that were set on the shortlist because the other guy was also on Survivor, which is very funny to me. I would have been very curious to see how he would have written the X-Men. But yeah, so we have a writer. How do you guys feel about it?
I haven't seen the Hunger Games prequel yet. I'm going to be honest. I like Now You See Me. I tweeted yesterday, the X-Men 97 team was right there. I know they're not actually going to write the X-Men movie. I was mostly kidding. Cool. Obviously not going to be the only writer on this movie. Hard to say much about it. I really need to watch Hunger Games before I can weigh in. So this was just a bunch of useless blabber, I think, from me.
I will say Jamie's not here, but she and I both did watch the Hunger Games prequel, and it does a really good job of not only like adapting the book, but changing things, but it also juggles this like really big ensemble and this like huge love story at the center of it, which is like on paper, a lot of what I would want out of a live action X-Men movie. So like, I'm hopeful.
That's actually the first thing I was going to ask you when I found out you had seen it was, did they balance an ensemble well in Hunger Games? That's
there
important.
are a lot of characters in the book who like kind of still fade in the background because they only matter so much into the story. But like the characters that do play a pivotal role, like they each get an arc. So I'm hopeful that he could juggle like a dozen different X-Men and do it well.
I think that the timing is interesting. The timing is mad suspicious. It's mad suspicious. Why would you have the writer get announced for this movie? And the next movie, and the only movie of this year, in fact, is Big Mutant Fest. So I think the timing is a little suspicious.
I dare say the Fox properties are about to really carry the MCU forward.
Yeah.
Ooh, boy.
I mean, they're not Fox. The properties once owned by Fox, because I don't think, Alexandra Shipp is going to be playing now. What?
20th Century's like a closet now. Like it's just that's it. That's all that's there.
But I mean, our next topic is Fantastic Four, and that is in itself going to, I think, be a huge part of this. And these are both, previously owned by Fox.
Yeah. Okay. So we got this, and this was slightly after an episode. So it was like they can't keep doing this situation. Fantastic Four casting. We got Ralph. Is it Innocent as Galactus? So. Oh man, that's funny. Do the voice.
Oh yeah, we have this clip of him talking just shows the Galactus voice perfectly.
Be couched in secrecy and codes and everything, so you don't really kind of know what you're getting involved with at the start. So I was asked to get involved in this video game and play this character, and things are very couched in secrecy and codes and everything, so you don't really kind of know what you're getting involved with at the start.
I mean, I wanted to play that just because I saw it going around Twitter, and I was like, it just shows you the voice.
I hope they modulate him as little as humanly possible, because like that voice works so well. I'm also glad that they announced this when they did, because I know we're talking about 2 weeks worth of news and it all blurred together, but John Malkovich, who we'll talk about, had just gotten cast that morning, and I'm glad we could only have like mere hours of people speculating that he was Galactus before we confirmed like no, this is actually Galactus. So yeah, I'm super excited.
So yes, as Jenna said, John Malkovich as someone, and Natasha Lyonne as someone. Herbie, please. Yeah, just a bunch of people, bunch of folks. We don't know who they're playing, but I gotta say, my first reaction to this was, remember how we spent multiple episodes of this place being like, people don't want to sign on for these things anymore. Like John Malkovich is like a real thing. Like Natasha Lyonne is like the biggest thing on Peacock. Like what? And your boy, AEW star himself. Is Paul Walter Hauser in this thing too?
Yeah, we talked about that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, like there's like a bunch of people. I mean,
future
I hope
GCW champion.
He's
or MLW champion.
MLW champion.
Yeah, the Fantastic Four cast coming together.
I really hope Natasha Lyonne is Herbie. I just need to say that now, because like there were rumors going around that like they were maybe going to cast a female Herbie, and I know Jamie's not here, and Jamie campaigned for that very hard. So like in her absence, I'm going to also advocate for that, because I can just so clearly hear the like neurotic kind of crazy manic energy from Natasha Lyonne as Herbie. I think that would be really fun.
It could be fun. That could be a lot of fun.
It's just interesting because like also it gives them the power to like be in it but not have to show up and be in shape. You could just film it in the closet constantly, and that's fun. That's
Bradley
really
Cooper as Rocket. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Vin Diesel as Groot.
Yeah.
As Groot. Yes.
Right.
Oh. So yeah, and then Jenna, more Fantastic Four.
Yeah. So on the topic of Fantastic Four, this was almost like 2 weeks ago when this news came out, but it kind of, I wrote a piece about this on the site, kind of speculating about this. So THR was reporting about the Mandalorian and Grogu movie and saying that Sigourney Weaver had joined the cast, and they were talking about when the movie was going to film and how intensive Pedro Pascal's filming of it would be, because they said that he would start filming Fantastic Four in July of this year. Fantastic Four is scheduled at this point to come out in July of 2025. Do we think this movie is going to get delayed? Because even just using Thunderbolts as an example, it has had like a 16-month production, and as far as we know, there are only like 2-ish characters that require extensive VFX and CGI, whereas like every single character in this movie, all of the Fantastic Four, Galactus, Shia LaBeouf, Herbie, anyone else, is going to require like massive amounts of CGI. And I would be shocked if they can get that all out in a year. And I honestly don't want them to. So how do you guys feel?
I have no doubt this is getting delayed, and we'll know the new date at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
My understanding is that July is when they're showing up for rehearsals.
Wow.
So I don't think I mean, I'd be shocked if this movie is able to hit, release within a year of rehearsal starting. So yeah, I think San Diego Comic-Con 1 year before this movie is scheduled to be released is when we're going to find out it's not happening. Because July 27th would be the Marvel Studios panel, which I'm pretty sure is happening. Brad Winderbaum, Kevin Feige, if you're listening, I volunteer as tribute to host. But we all want that panel. We all expect that panel to do big things for the MCU's timeline in our world. And I think one of those things is a new date for Fantastic Four. And maybe like an Avengers movie gets moved up or something. Maybe not up, but jumps it in the release order, or who knows? Who knows?
That is interesting, but also to use everybody's stuff against them. Let's go to what people have said. Bob Iger really stumping for Fantastic Four and all of the press stuff at Upfronts and at Morgan Stanley Conference and another weird other event where he's in some sort of cutoff vest talking to investors about things. Also, IMAX's solicits for next year have already come out, and guess what date Fantastic Four has exclusivity for 4 weeks almost in is that July date.
Moved around, though.
They got burned on the Marvels last year. And Blade is still in that weird IMAX thing, which is funny as heck to me too. I'm gonna write that up for the site.
They said no. They already
IMAX
said they're
only
limiting
knows
it.
so much. Yeah,
Huh?
IMAX only knows so much.
I know,
think
but
at
I'm
this
saying
point-
they don't want to get burned. Is what I'm saying. I think they would go to Disney and be like, yo, we can't have this happen again with stuff just moving because they're taking on water too.
Right.
Like
Well,
the rest of the movie industry. Like
the
they're only
argument-
gonna make so many Dunes.
The argument I will make, and
Mm-hmm.
like this is also part of why I would not be opposed to Fantastic Four moving, is I'm already sick of the Superman comparisons. I'm already sick of people pitting
Oh,
those
it's
two movies
happening.
against each other.
Get ready.
And I know it's still happening regardless, but it's not going to happen as much if those movies are several months apart from each other as opposed to 2 weeks. I don't think IMAX would mind getting to run Superman for a couple more weeks, like in July where Fantastic Four was supposed to be.
Mhm.
And then if you move Fantastic Four to Blade slot in like the fall of 2025, Iger still wins in talking about the movie and championing it for 2025. IMAX still wins. Like it seems inevitable at this point.
I
think
just want you to
Fantastic Four-
also, I'm sorry to do this to y'all, but I've heard things about pre-production and biz dev on this thing, and let's just say I don't think the visual development people were sitting at home while the strikes were going on. And we know that the people who were supposed to be these people were already cast before that. From Ebon Mas-Baccarat on Jimmy Fallon saying they were
Right.
all cast last August. So
Well, let's say
that.
it takes 6 months to film. It's done in January. If they
Mhm.
start in July, which they very well may not roll cameras till August.
That's true. That's
You know,
right.
January, February, that gives you 3.5 months, 4 months, maybe 4 months. It's possible. It's possible.
It is possible.
And
It's
they have a
tight, though.
script. Like the number one thing they keep saying is we got to have these scripts done and stop changing things along the way. They have really polished that script many times over on Fantastic Four, and I think they
That's
have one that
true.
they're going to actually shoot. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. On 3, yay or nay, will Fantastic Four release on July 25th, 2025? 1, 2, 3, nay.
Nay.
I'm gonna say yay.
Wow.
God, I hate when I go against Aaron. Aaron's always right.
I've heard things. That's all I'm gonna say. I've heard things. This movie is not in the state that y'all think it's in. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all
All
I'm
I'm
gonna
saying
say.
is there's not a
This movie is
single
not-
frame recorded.
The last thing I
Do
will
you
say.
need people to do all the CGI for it necessarily?
Is this going to be some Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes thing where 35 minutes of it is completely animated?
Okay.
I mean, it's possible. It could be. It very well could be. Out. You know.
Go
Well,
talk to Joe. Go talk to Joe off camera, Brandon.
I will
Go
say,
talk to Joe
using,
about it. We talked
using
about it.
Planet of the Apes as an example, they did say that they filmed a lot of that, as much of it as possible practically. We've seen the original, like the initial teaser art for Fantastic Four. We know like the kind of 60s metropolis city that they're going to have. I'm assuming a lot of that is going to have to be done digitally as well. So
Yeah.
I am just safely assuming that it's going to take Blade's release date. As the chat is saying, they are getting on to my idea that like Blade is not a real movie yet. So if it took if it took Blade's release date, I would not be surprised at all.
All right, we got to keep moving here. We're running a little long. Chris Pratt return as Starlord to join the DC universe. That's what Chris Killian asked him. And we're just going to play the clip. So let's hear
Ask
from
this question.
old
This is the one
Starlord
I'm
himself.
contractually obligated for.
Oh.
If you were to wager a bet on where we'll see you next, do you think you'll be suiting up as somebody in DC or returning as Starlord?
If I had to wager a bet,
It's just hypothetical.
hypothetical, well, I think it's,
There's no wrong answer here. I want
Right.
to see you everywhere.
yeah, you do?
I've acknowledged this already.
Yes, wow, amazing. Well, probably make more sense that I would be Starlord again, but anything is possible, and especially with James over at DC, maybe there's something that would be right over there. Maybe both. How about both?
I
Let's
love
do
both.
I think it's 100% both.
1,000% both.
1,000%.
So, I mean, I think he was just having fun with it. He doesn't really have any plans for either, it would seem. My takeaway is, yes, he's probably going to be back as Starlord. He's open to joining the DC universe. And I want to give Chris Killian props for making the awkward, obligatory, hey, here's an off-topic question moment pretty seamless there. So, yeah. Any thoughts on Chris Pratt and his comments there?
I'm glad he's open to doing both, because I know a lot of actors, once they kind of complete the series of movies or complete the trilogy, they're like, all right, that chapter of my life is done and I'm never coming back to it. But I'm at least excited that he's excited about coming back.
I don't think Chris Pratt says no to roles anymore.
Yeah.
That man is everywhere. He's
not
Garfield.
I have not seen the Orange Cat yet.
Hey, y'all saw the Adam Movies review of Garfield, though, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I can't even. This is not the Deadpool episode.
No.
I can't quote it. Jesus. Okay. Thor 5. Furiosa hits theaters this Friday. It's directed by George Miller. It stars Anya Taylor-Joy and Thor, Chris Hemsworth. They really enjoyed working together. Chris Hemsworth has been open about how much he wants to work with George Miller. So I asked George Miller, hey, man, Thor 5's probably coming. Here's how that went at the Furiosa junket. Been really open about how much he loved working with you and how he hopes to work with you again. He also has been open about wanting to do another Thor. So as a big fan of superheroes, you almost did a superhero movie once upon a time.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever talk about that? Would you ever go work with him on his
I'd
next Thor iteration?
I would work with Chris on anything.
Yeah.
I really would. He's a wonderful actor. He's got the full he's got the full range of all the skills. I mean, you've got to be athletic physically, but you also got to be athletic emotionally and intellectually to take on these very, ultimately fairly complex, any role really. So I was very lucky with all my cast, and particularly in the way that Anya and Chris matched each other, particularly towards the end of the movie.
Man, that end bumper there from comic book, it really wakes you back up. George Miller, Thor 5. I think it's a cool idea. I like his movie. I also like how practical he makes most of his stuff. I will say one of my criticisms about Furiosa is when it goes into CGI stuff, you can really tell. But other than that, I think George Miller's freaking cool, really cool director. I like his stuff. I mean, he did Happy Feet. Come on now. How y'all feeling?
I would be definitely open for this. I saw some people when this quote was going around being like, how dare you ask George Miller this question? But it's like, you look at his filmography, you look at like the original Mad Max movies, he can get super weird. He can get very ambitious creatively with the ideas that he's doing. I could totally see him taking Thor in a direction that like we've never really seen it, but something that still could kind of like split the difference between the first two movies and Taika's last two movies. So I would be down for it. I don't know if he would ever actually make it happen, but it would be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be interesting because that's another person that you wouldn't necessarily have to have old Kev like be looking over their shoulder at George. He knows how to make a movie. So that's wonderful to think about. Also, just it's funny that Chris Hemsworth is such a interesting character that everybody just wants to be his friend and follow him. Like Taika too. They all like, oh, Sam Hargrave. Everybody's like, no. I get to hang out with the beefy man now, not you. Which is very funny. So probably not going to happen, but would be interesting. They're still looking for that director, and Gareth is over in Dinosaur World now. So,
Well, so that's our movie portion of Phase Zero. Wow. What a chonky show this is. Oh my gosh, we're running late. It's a great opportunity to subscribe to the channel and make sure you check out the rest of our videos because Phase 2 is all about TV and Phase 3 is all about Spider-Man. So with that, we'll see you in a moment.